It's really difficult to ask friends for $50,000 or $100,000.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Test, Optimize, and Scale. Going to be speaking with the Chief Commercial Officer of EndoSound today, Josh Cohn. Josh is an expert in terms of growth, product innovation. Josh has one of the top Wefunder equity crowdfunding campaigns live right now. Hundreds of investors who have already backed the campaign. So we're going to talk about GI care, going to talk about endoscopes, going to talk about all the underlying MedTech, biotechnology that EndoSound is getting attention for as we speak right now, from publishers, from investors. Josh, thanks for taking the time to join the podcast here.
Thank you for having me, Jason, and thanks for spreading the word about EndoSound and all the great things you're doing in the crowdfunding space. I'm fascinated to be a part of it and really appreciate folks like you as pioneers in this space, kind of taking it to the next level.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. And really could say the same thing in the sense that you guys have been seeing investors come from Wefunder, from publishers, finding you through SEO, all different organic sources. People genuinely care about what you guys are doing. They want to become shareholders. They want to be along for the ride and part of the potential growth. I want to take a step back, though, familiarize the audience a little bit with you, with EndoSound. What got you into this space, and how have you guys built the company?
Sure. I've been in MedTech for almost 19 years now. I started with one of the bigger companies in the GI space, kind of cut my teeth as a territory manager and kind of rose through the ranks there and left as national sales director before I kind of started this endeavor into the startup space. Always kind of had a passion for new technology, passion for kind of being the little guy, and always thought I would go join a startup. It just took me a while to get there. A few years ago, Dr. Steve Steinberg kind of reached out to me about doing some consulting, and I started as a consultant and then became their first employee almost 4 years ago. So it's been a great ride on the EndoSound team and really proud of what we're doing.
So you have your success, you have your background, you want to be part of the entrepreneurial space. You get contacted by Dr. Steve and you say, hey, we're doing this. You hop on board. What did it look like from there? Why this product? What does the audience need to know about EndoSound and how it differentiates and why you are committed to the success, the growth?
Yeah, great question. I'd kind of been a little aware of Dr. Steinberg's project for a number of years. Working at a company that I was at, we were in the space. He had thrown a few ideas off of us as even a potential acquirer. So I was kind of in the know in regards to what he was trying to do, and really passionate about what he's trying to do. And that's really democratize a technology that is lacking access in rural areas, lacks access in the ambulatory surgical center market, where we see the majority of procedures today being done and performed. It's a preferred choice for patients. And then lack of access in underserved markets. So you can imagine if a medical technology is underserved in the United States and it can only be found at academic medical centers and large urban centers, then you can imagine what that's like in third world. So I knew a little bit about what his device was and what it was trying to do. And when they raised enough funds to hire me, I was lucky enough to kind of come over and be a part of the kind of process of really from prototype to first in man to FDA to commercialization. It's been an amazing experience. I've learned so much since I've been doing this. But really just, even seeing firsthand just in the last few months, a patient that had a procedure done in a surgery center that would have been done in the hospital previously, she really couldn't afford. She could not afford the procedure in the hospital. So she went to the ASC and was able to have a procedure done at the ASC at a lower cost. And that's really the reason why this technology resonated with me the most is really whenever you can get a procedure done in a surgical center versus a hospital, it's less expensive for patients and significantly less expensive. Co-pays are significantly less expensive. And then it's just so much more efficient for the patient instead of, walking through a hospital and getting lost and trying to find a particular department. Walking into an ambulatory surgical center is much more efficient. And then you don't deal with the hospital acquired infections in a surgical center like you do in the hospital. So, from a patient perspective, the idea of transitioning these procedures to the surgery center made all the sense in the world. And really, the number one prohibitive reason for why it wasn't being done in the surgery center was cost. That was
Mm.
it. Legacy systems are just too expensive to acquire and put in a surgery center. Physicians clearly want to do this procedure in the surgery center because typically they own the surgery center.
Yep.
It's a profit center for them. When they're at the hospital, they're working for the hospital. So moving this procedure to the surgical center makes all the sense in the world for not just the patient, but also the physician. And when I had the opportunity to kind of provide that kind of service or technology to a physician, it was really a no-brainer for me to come over here. It was an exciting opportunity and endeavor, and again, now it's full circle.
Amazing. So, working with Dr. Steinberg, you guys have been able to make this a more affordable process. Just to give some scope to the audience, how many surgical centers, how many hospitals are currently using EndoSound?
Good question. We're in one major academic medical center that uses us for a really small niche procedure that they cannot do with legacy systems. And then we're in one rural hospital just right outside of Dallas that never had this technology previously. Physician was trained to do this procedure, endoscopic ultrasound, but the cost requirements to start a new service line just didn't make sense for the hospital. And we kind of made that make sense for them. So we just installed there a couple of months ago. He's incredibly happy. And then we're in currently 11 ambulatory surgical centers really across the United States, from Ohio to Florida to Texas to California. So we kind of span the entire United States. We have a really small team. So we're really focused on making sure that we have happy clients. Love your test optimize scale, because that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of out of that test phase and we're in that optimize phase, and we're trying not to get ahead of ourselves. But scale is coming. Scale is going to happen with what we call Gen 2 later this year, and then we're going to be smart about how we scale. But testing and optimizing are essential. I've seen way too many companies scale way too soon, and that did not end up very well for them. So we're trying to do things right here.
Trying to take the right steps, get the right feedback, shape the product accordingly, so that once it's time for scale, you have the right foundation, you've done the right troubleshooting, you know what the audience is looking for. What is the feedback from the audience right now? You mentioned the lower cost and people being able to have this access accordingly, but you guys have received some investments from some very impressive strategic partners. You guys are, getting into these hospitals, these surgical centers, these different locations, and nationwide at that. What has been the feedback you've received thus far?
Yeah, I'd say the target's been on our back for some time now. To your point, we've been kind of in the spotlight for a number of years. Um, the idea really resonated with a lot of people early on. Now, being able to take that idea, idea to proof of concept to market is not easy. But some validating points, you kind of alluded to them. Our biggest societies invested in us with their money. So we were able to kind of take that backing and go find some venture funding that we've been able to put to good use. Um, but what is the market saying? I mean, the market has said again from day one that this was needed, and they said that with their voice, they said that with their money through the societies, and now that it's in the marketplace, our users are voicing this as well, and they're voicing it, quite frankly, in the most powerful way possible, which is their money. They're investing in EndoSound, so. We made it a concerted effort not to go to our GI investors as users. We had a number of gastroenterologists on our cap table who, again, thought this. I thought this idea was fantastic, thought it would resonate, it would work, et cetera. They invested, but we decided not to go to them. And we've kind of formed our own investors through some of our users. This crowdfunding idea, this crowdfunding opportunity really opened up doors to our users to invest without us saying anything. They kind of came to us, right? Hey, I see you guys are advertising this, and there's an opportunity for investment. Is that for me too? And we, of course, it is. So out of the 13 sites that we currently have placements, 6 of them have users that have invested in our technology. So it's really exciting what the market has kind of said. The market, from a user's perspective, has said, "Hey, this works. This makes a lot of sense." From a financial perspective, we've been able to test that to make sure that reimbursement story makes sense. It does. So we're just kind of checking off, box by box, really waiting for Gen 2 to be released later on this year. Again, and then we'll scale everything that we've done from really a couple years ago till Gen 2 launch.
And it's remarkable to hear about that. 6 of the 13 sites have have users who have invested with you guys. I think that's exactly why Reg CF was created. And I've had some of the uh, people who made Title III of the Jobs Act regulation crowdfunding come into fruition on my podcast, and they're all about user owners, people who love, believe in the company, the product, to be able to become shareholders. Uh, it sounds like that's the exact type of dynamic you're seeing with your user base. Uh, why did you guys choose to go down the Reg CF path? Is it for that reason in its own right? How did this become an attractive avenue for you?
It's a good question, and I think it was really twofold. I think it was one to kind of open up the opportunity to our community. We've had a really big following, really from day one. We have 3,700 followers on LinkedIn. Industry has known about us. Our colleagues have known about us. They've supported us. They've helped us get to where we are today. Many of my friends have either introduced me to other investors, et cetera. So we have so many people to thank. And this was really an opportunity to open it up to the masses, open it up to our colleagues. And, it's pretty validating when you have a user invest, but it also feels really good when you have someone in the industry invest. And when they invest, you get text messages. And
Yeah.
I get text messages now once a week. Hey, did you think about this doctor? Or do you know this doctor? Or do you know this clinic? We have over 30 GI folks in the marketplace working for other very big companies, and in some cases, our competitors, who have invested in us and want to see us succeed. So that was one of the reasons. The other was, we needed to get creative. It was not difficult for us to raise the first, call it 10, $11 million. It really wasn't. We were able to sell a license to a major GI strategic, which was, again, very validating and very true to the fact that we've had a target on us for a long time, right? Strategic invest $5 million for a license typically means they've done their homework, they know you've got something good here, and I call it smart money. So we had 5 million there of non-dilutive funds. We had a successful Series A round, and then we're kind of going right into this Series B idea. We wanted to start a convertible note, knowing that we would find a Series B lead fairly quickly because we hadn't had any issues previously. And we kind of hit a roadblock, to be honest with you. It just seems like the VC world dried up a little bit for MedTech earlier stage. I think the elections of last year, just a little bit of interest rates, all these things, right, just kind of hit us at one time. And it became a little bit more difficult to raise money.
Yeah.
And we needed to get creative. So we got creative, we did some research, and we debated it as an executive team for a number of months. Is this what we really want to do? Does this show a level of desperation? Is this really what we want people to think we're doing, right? And we had to educate ourselves. We'd had some folks who had some poor experiences in the past. But what I've learned through that whole due diligence process by our executive leadership team was that this wasn't the Reg CF of 2020. This was different. It's evolved. It's evolved into a very reputable space. So we went all in. The entire executive leadership team, the whole team, just kind of, we had the buy-in from the board, which from early on may not have been all in, But once we kind of did some due diligence and we came back to them, they said, sure, we fully support it. So those are the two reasons why we kind of out of necessity and to try to grow the base of our community and allow them to kind of join in our success.
I applaud that. I hear more and more from companies in the med tech space. Your comment about VC traditional capital kind of being paused at the moment. I'm sure there's groups that are getting some funding, but that the doors are closed. Uh, the fact that you had your first degree network, like you guys said, friends, family, customers, strategic partners, everyone in the database, you were able to bring them to this opportunity. I'd love to see more med tech companies do it as a whole. I mean, you guys are saving lives. The early detection, you hear about pancreatic disease and liver and all the different types of
Awful.
cancer. This is absolutely something that, as a consumer, I'm infatuated by. And I believe many others that are on Wefunder, some of these equity crowdfunding platforms, some of the publishers that talk about these Reg CF deals. Why shouldn't we have
Yeah.
opportunities to invest and being part of the forefront of GI, the forefront of MedTech? So the fact that you're able to tell your story on a platform, have a video featuring your team, show all the details of the offering, the company, the product, the comparables,
Yeah.
industry growth. There's certain things you could say and not say about forward-looking statements, but to be able to get that awareness and be able to bring thousands of individuals to fund a deal, and then have us continuing to talk about you afterwards of, oh, hey, did
Yeah.
you see this campaign? Or, oh, hey, I'm a shareholder. You should take a look at these guys. You hear about these health conditions far too often, so it's a marketing tool, in its own utility at that point.
I've seen friends, change jobs in the last 12 months who worked for startups who didn't make it, couldn't find the funding. When you're in this space, it's a small network, right, of startups. We all kind of know each other in the GI space. We know who's doing what, and unfortunately, the funds are drying up for a lot of other companies as well. And you had said, I hope the med tech space grows. I'm just a small guy in a small town in North Carolina, right? I'm really a nobody. But I do want to do my part. And my friends and colleagues at some of these other companies have heard me beat the drum of crowdfunding. And I hope what we're able to do is help remove that stigma that is associated with it and really for them to understand that this is a huge opportunity, but also this is where I believe the world is going, right? It's democratizing capitalization. I
Yes.
listened to Chris Lestrino earlier, I think his last name, sorry, from King's Crowd
Yes.
on the Super Crowd event. And, he was talking about the first $1 billion IPO just happened earlier this year from a med tech company. Started their first, crowdfunding on one of the portals, and now they IPO'd for $1 billion. It's actually a pancreatic company that's similar in our space. They go after diabetes, but that's exciting, right? We need to hear more of those success stories, I think, in order to kind of grow this space. But I do believe that my other co-founders, my other executives in the startup med device space, I hope see our story. They see what we've been able to do, and I hope they go this route. Because one of the other things that it really does take a little bit of the power from those VCs, right? That sometimes write contracts that aren't maybe in the shareholders' best interest, whether it be warrants or whatever it may be, right?
You hear it
This
too
really
often.
allows us to grab control of kind of what we're trying to sell to our shareholders and really control our own equity. So there's so many reasons why it makes sense. It's not easy. It does require a lot of work. But I really hope MedTech continues to grow the crowdfunding space because, to your point, technologies and great technologies will die if they don't, and especially in med device because you can imagine, med device we're highly regulated. We've got so many hoops and barriers to overcome to even get to market, right? And then when you get to market, oftentimes folks come to market with a product that is not sellable, right? It's just to get to market. And then they have to optimize, right? Optimize. I mean, this just costs so much money, right? And without the capital, it's kind of hard to succeed. So innovation will unfortunately die in this kind of environment. And I hope Reg CF, helps other innovators like Steve, like good, our founder, I hope it helps folks like Steve bring innovations to life and inevitably help patients like the patient in Asheville, North Carolina, a couple months ago that was able to have her, ultrasound done in an ASC instead of a hospital.
Talking about the actual individuals. I mean, that is the democratization of access to capital for founders, Dr. Steinberg, access to early stage deal flow, like
Yeah.
patient or anyone on one of these equity crowdfunding platforms. You're right, companies fail when they're undercapitalized. And
Yep.
only so many deals get funded at the VC angel investor level in good times. I find
Yeah.
stats where it's under 5%.
Yep.
So the ability to market, to say, hey, I'm going to reach out to all these individuals that I've found in databases online. They seem like they're interested in this type of technology or these types of offerings. The ability to advertise to the right targeted audiences and
Yeah.
bring them to the offering and have content, have the updates, have everything showcased front and center transparently. Look at all of the accomplishments over the past month. Look at these new deals. Look at these events we spoke
Sure.
at. Look at these testimonials from investors, from patients, from medical centers, from all of these different voices. It really gives you the ability as a founder to be able to get the right people over and even funding it with small amounts. And I want to make sure the audience understands. I mean, you guys have raised millions, over 12 million from Go MedTech, from all of these different strategic partners, AGI fund. You guys have raised over $800,000 from retail now on Wefunder, tapping into those audiences, having people that are genuinely interested in what you guys are doing for med tech. I think you undersell yourself there as well too. I look at you as one of the leaders for this vertical based on the content you're putting out, for EndoSound. So I want to make sure the audience understands that, and the fact that you're opening it up for people to go along on the journey with you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate those comments.
And for anybody who's tuned in, and let's say they're a founder, they're a marketer, they're a VC, and they're looking at their portfolio company, or they work on an equity crowdfunding platform and speaking to their issuers on a regular basis, what would you recommend that they test out towards their growth? It could be around crowdfunding. It could be around some of the different tactics you guys have used to build the right partnerships. I look at growth as a series of tests. What should they be incorporating into their model to test out?
From a VC perspective or from a company perspective? I'm sorry.
From a company perspective, or a VC who's working with the company, but from the company perspective, founder.
I mean, I guess I'd like to kind of address it from both ends. One, the VC perspective, even though that wasn't your question, because I do think there is an
Please.
opportunity for VCs to embrace this idea as well. I feel like they should encourage their companies, their portfolio companies, that if they're looking for follow-on capital or if they're syndicating a round that's led by a VC, to really consider Reg CF because it does open up the community inside whatever it is you're raising, right? Whatever specialty it is. And then from a company perspective, I would just suggest they really like consider rewarding those folks that have helped them succeed, right? Inevitably, many of the people on our cap table were not on our cap table until after they learned about us or they did something for us or we reciprocated something. And at the end of the day, they said, you know what, this is a great team to be investing in. And then they invested. So just building a community of investors that are not just silent, but building investors that want to be involved and not involved from a, hey, you know, I've heard a few people ask, like, hey, are you getting bombarded by hundreds of investors wanting to know, when they're going to get their $500 back? Like, no, like, not at all, right? That's not the kind of bombarding I'm talking about. I'm talking about bombarding from investors that want to help. Again, like I said earlier, want to introduce you to the next ambulatory surgical center, introduce you to the next doctor. So I would just tell them to, regardless of their financial situation, to consider Reg CF as an opportunity to reward the folks that help them get to where they are.
Absolutely. I find as a marketer, those people then share with their friends, their family, hey, I'm an owner in this type of
Yeah,
company. And it could be your strongest marketing tool. Peer to peer marketing is the ultimate, and for all the right reasons. You're bringing them on board as owners. And It's structured so they're all on one seat of the cap table. It's not like having, 100 other investors on there, part of all the meetings. You do want to give reports. You do want to keep them abreast of
Sure.
everything that's going on, of course. But I've seen only good things come out of that, really. And like you said, they have different intentions. I used to hear investors broken down into ROI. Hey, they're just focused on that number. The VCs fit in
Yeah.
that category, even take control. Strategic investors and friends and family. You mentioned community. I know Wefunder is very big on community rounds, even defining Reg CF as
Yeah.
community rounds.
Hmm.
I see so many great things come out of that, where you have your audience, you're able to bring them in, be able to continue growing that audience. We've worked with issuers who are on their fifth, sixth round. They're able to keep going back to the crowd, even use it in their VC conversations. If they're not getting the
Yeah.
right valuation, the right terms, they're trying to get undervalued by an aggressive group. It's, hey, we're going to go back to the crowd. We're able
Yeah.
to do this. We have people who didn't get in on the last round. So again, I've only seen good things come out of it, but it's all a matter of enrolling people to get in that community, showing what's available for them, and keeping them engaged throughout the process. What
Sure.
about building your community, but you're still not seeing the right performance. You're still not seeing the right results, or maybe it's plateaued for a bit. It's slowed down. What are the right approaches towards optimizations, towards pivots? You guys have been very good at this in terms of growing the business and shifting so you're able to find the right counterparts, the right medical centers, the right groups to work with. How do you manage something to a point of effectiveness? How do you optimize?
Oh, you have to listen. You got to be open minded, and you got to try something different. Not to keep things medical, but I think Steve, again, one of our founders, has a really good um, approach to a very difficult procedure, which is called ERCP. And it's a highly specialized procedure for interventional gastroenterologists. And oftentimes these procedures can take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And, he uses this example of like, I try different stuff all the time, right? If he's not able to cannulate, by doing the same technique that he's been doing for 40 years and he still can't cannulate, he needs to do something different. So you just have to optimize in just about anything we do, right? And he even says, he goes, I'll try anything, right? If it's not working, I'll try anything. Give me ideas. And I think it's important to be that way, especially at an early stage medical device company. You've got to listen to your users, you got to listen to folks that know more than you. I mean, taking the crowdfunding space, I think our team has done a really good job of reaching out to thought leaders like you and asking for advice. We've had weeks where we didn't raise as much money, right? We've had days where we didn't raise as much money. I think I told you one of the first times I spoke to you, I think we went 48 something straight days with someone investing, and we raised a lot of money. And then we went a day or two without seeing that email come on my phone, and it was miserable. It's like miserable spending the whole day not getting an update that we didn't get an investor. So we've had a lull, we have, and you got to change, you got to optimize, you got to do something different, right? If what you're doing isn't working, try something else. And we're getting ready to start an advertising campaign. We've advertised zero to date. And we're about to start an advertising campaign that we're really excited about. And I think a little bit about as well. So hopefully that'll help us, get things kickstarted again towards the close, and hopefully have a successful close here in the next month.
Excellent recommendations. I mean, first of all, I have to point out the fact that you got investors every day for that long. I mean, think about how many med tech companies are listening, watching, and with that type of comment are thinking, wow, we've been going after an investor for months. The fact that you guys
Yeah.
are getting them every day and through digital, which means you could attribute where they're coming from, do more of what's working, optimize towards it.
Yeah.
You said to be open, to listen. I'll try anything, speak to the experts, prioritize which channels, which approaches, what budget levels, even the man hours, the actual, human capital, the resources it takes to fulfill any of these channels. You want to
Yeah.
choose where to allocate those, of course. Obviously, big fan of the advertising and the fact that you're going to be bringing in investors who participate in these types of deals straight to your offering with those type of paid channels, looking at the foundation now and how to scale it up and get to the next levels, and then optimizing from there, seeing what's working, seeing what's not, doing
That's
more of
right.
what's driving, looking for pockets of performance, and then looking to scale. You guys have scaled your fundraising outside of this. You've scaled your fundraising here. Only 10% of issuers raise 750K or more. You guys are well beyond that already, and in a very short window of time, relatively speaking. What have been the factors for you scaling? Reg CF, offline capital raising, and EndoSound as a business as a whole.
Yeah, from a Reg CF perspective, I mean, it's that investor. It's scaling our investors, right? And that's through Reg CF, period. Sure, we've sent out lots of emails. We've done lots of posts on LinkedIn. But I think just as far as scaling from a investor perspective and Reg CF, it's really just using the tool, using the legislation to allow us to scale. It's really difficult to ask friends for $50,000 or $100,000. Few of my friends, I don't mind asking them for that, but I don't have that many friends that I feel comfortable asking for that kind of money.
Sure, sure.
So really, the only way to scale our, investment, into the company is really through crowdfunding because, we don't want just wealthy people to be able to invest or extremely wealthy people to invest. And we scaled it through Reg CF. So, you see on our platform, we've got over 240 new investors. And it's crazy because a lot of those investors are doctors or industry representatives that wrote $5,000 checks, $2,000 checks. So we really were able to just scale the investor group of EndoSound by using Reg CF, and then scaling from just an EndoSound perspective. We're not there yet. We're still in that optimizing area, and you don't, like I said before, you don't want to scale before you optimize, right? You don't want to optimize before you tested. So it really makes a lot of sense. Love the test, optimize, scale portion of the name of your podcast. So I think at the end of this year, it's funny because we will test, optimize, test, and then scale. So we kind of do it four ways, right? We optimize and
Sure.
we test it to make sure that we can scale it, and we'll be testing it later on this year under an IRB. And then once we get positive results from that test, we intend on scaling the Gen 2, and it's going to be really exciting. We don't just have clients that are waiting on Gen 2 that are excited about it. I mean, we got a huge pipeline of folks that want to try our product and want to use it. We also have a pipeline of medical device representatives that want to work here. That they kind of understand that this is the next kind of big thing. And kind of like when I came over to EndoSound, what really attracted me to EndoSound was being able to provide a product that a doctor did not currently have in a place where they would love to have it, right? I had spent my previous 16 years kind of selling just a different widget, right? It didn't really bring them additional monies. It didn't really increase efficiencies. It was just another way of doing the same procedure. So in this case, I was able to come to a company that's providing a product to a physician in their surgical center that they didn't have before. That's money they didn't have before, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the representatives out in the MedTech GI space see the same thing. They see that opportunity. And who doesn't want to sell a product that to some degree kind of sells itself? And that's what we're trying to optimize to so that we can scale, let's call it first quarter of next year.
Gen 2, you're going to be welcoming this to professionals in the industry, to strategic partners. Don't want to speak for you by any means. Perhaps you explore the use of another equity crowdfund campaign and have these updates for the investors, at least updates for the fans of this round and all the people that you're contacting, not just those who have physically participated or will, but everyone who's watching and seeing everything that you're doing. So it's a great platform to be able to enter into Q1 next year and be able to give the announcements from there.
For sure. I think when we first started this thing, it was just going to be a convertible note that we were going to do. We never really thought about doing a price to B, Series B round. But now I think we're about 99% there. I think we intend on closing this convertible note here in the next few weeks. We're going to hit the pause button on raising some funds. We're going to put our heads down on Gen 2, make sure we get it out. There's a few other milestones that we're really excited about. We think we'll hit between now and call it very end of Q4, Q1 next year. And then I think we're all but certain going to do a price round in the Reg CF space. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Well said. Well said. And you'll be able to have your marketing channels. So you'll be able to say, hey,
That's right.
these audiences with this type of messaging, especially with all of the new evolutions we're going to be able to speak about, we can anticipate this type of traffic. If we're hitting a good conversion rate, this type of investments, this average investment, you're able to use it as building blocks into those next rounds.
Yep. Well said. Well said.
Very nice. Well, Josh, I thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the podcast here, educate us a bit about the world of GI, about what EndoSound's doing in the space, the impact that it's having. I've gone through my notes here and have been learning more just through our discussion. For anyone who's watching, viewing, that wants to learn more themselves, where should they go? Is it the Wefunder page? Is it endosound.com? Where should we send them?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in learning about how to become an investor, obviously, go to our Wefunder page, wefunder.com/EndoSound. But if you want to learn a little bit more about what we're doing, there's some testimonials on the Wefunder site. There's also testimonials on our website at endosound.com. Or feel free to find us on LinkedIn. Reach out to us directly. I've had a number of potential investors reach out to us firsthand through LinkedIn, and we've had conversations. Yeah, we'd love to have you follow us on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, we're happy to help and answer any questions we can. And thank you, Jason, for having me. This was great. I look forward to working with you for maybe the years to come.
Us as well. Pleasure's been all mine. Thank you for taking the time. I would definitely take Josh up on his offer there. Get in touch over LinkedIn. Check out the Wefunder page. Thank you for tuning in here as well. And Josh, everyone tuned in. We'll see you next time.